Hello class, so welcome to this video for the homework on annotating the suggested quotes for the ambition essay we'll be writing on Thursday. So first of all, some things to keep in mind while we're looking at these quotes that'll probably be important and come in handy for your essay will be the historical context points about the natural order and the divine right of kings, and also the context about the historical gender stereotypes and around women being weak and obedient. And something that we haven't touched on in class yet, but which crops up when we look at Lady Macbeth in these annotations, is that besides being stereotyped as kind of weak and obedient, the idea of women being deceptive or sly at this time actually has a link to biblical imagery. So there was a particularly unpleasant strain of thought that suggested that because Eve persuaded Adam to eat from the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden and consequently got man thrown out of the garden by God, that women were sort of in a large part to blame for that kind of original sin. So it's worth not digging into it too much in your essays, but if you were going to talk about biblical imagery in relation to Lady Macbeth, it would be a nice point to bring up, I think. So you'd say that women blamed for the fall of man in eating from the tree of knowledge, and you'll see in Lady Macbeth's imagery or how she speaks about deception, and also the serpent who was Satan, who persuaded her to do it in the first place. Okay, right. So these are in no particular order. I'm going to go through them as quickly as possible. So yeah, take down these notes. It'll be up to you to kind of have a think about which ones will be useful for your own essay plan and come up with some of your own ideas, but this should give you a good head start. So in Act 1, Scene 3, when Banquo is just listening to the witches speak to Macbeth and give them the initial prophecies, he speaks about my noble partner and noble having and royal hope. And those short quotations that might be useful to embed have all got sort of connotations of almost balance and acceptance. You know, he's still speaking quite sort of politely and of nobility and royal hope rather than ambition, that we'll see is very different to how Macbeth speaks about it. He uses this interesting seeds of time metaphor. So the idea of time being a seed, he says, which grain will grow and which will not. So this metaphor is how he describes the prophecy. So within that, we can unpack this metaphor a little bit, because if this is a metaphor for ambition, it works because a seed has connotations of potential. Okay, it could potentially become a big tree or a flower or whatever. But those three options that the seed has, I would suggest, would be to grow, to die, or to stay dormant as a seed until conditions are right. And we could think about what that metaphor might suggest about different characters. So who seems to grow? Well, in the long run, perhaps Banquo's line, because seed is also a word for sort of like genes and your inheritance. So